for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice Eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amukha Vairocana Mahamudra Mani Padma Chavala Pravartaya Please follow a wand along with the simple stretching mindfulness practices with each breathing. And be aware, especially of body. Please stand for the chanting of the three refuges, followed by recitation in English. Chi sim huinyang ne shi pang sam se che mong cha Song Ju Il Che Chi Shim Huinyang Ne Shi Bang Sam Se Che Mong Cha Le Song Ju Il Che Chi Shim Huinyang Ne Shi Bang Sam Se Che Mong Cha Le Song Ju Il Che Song Gaya And the English. Please repeat after me. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return to your places for another shorter period of meditation. And as you sit, please align your body, shoulders in line, ears in line with the shoulders, nose in line with the relaxed abdomen. Bringing the hips a little forward, raising the sternum. Very, very imperceptibly lower the shoulders and take them a little back. Bring the tip of your tongue to rest on the back of your top teeth. And bring your eyes at a 45-degree angle to the floor in front of you. Open. And then, just before you start your meditation practice, whether it's Wadu study of some kind, breathing, take some deep diaphragmatic breaths. Sometimes Sunam calls them power breaths, where you breathe in to the count of 10 and exhale to the count of 10. 5 times, and then go to your meditation practice. Please listen while Ma'um reads to us from the Dhammapada. She's sitting in front of the windows out to our new pond. The section she will read from is called Flowers.
Desire never crosses the path of virtuous and wakeful ones. Their brightness sets them free. How sweetly the lotus grows in the litter of the wayside. Its pure fragrance delights the heart. Follow the awakened, and from among the blind, the light of your wisdom will shine out purely.
On a walk around the temple yard this morning before I joined you for this service, still 3 hyacinths blooming at the front gate, a daffodil by the Buddha Hall door, and periwinkle under our great yew hedge. Springtime, and I'm looking for the flowers and appreciating the sun almost shining. Good morning, everyone, and welcome from the 10 directions. As usual, I appreciate my walk around the yard before I join with you because it often helps to clarify what I'll be able to share. And of course, this morning is no different. So each week I should remind myself not to be troubled until after I've had my walk around, and then things will be clear as to what I might offer. Yesterday evening, I received from Sabaha, one of our Dharma students, a little story, actually, that I had sent her a few years ago because I was so impressed with it. And it was about how Inuit in the north of Canada help their children to deal with strong emotions. And it was a lot about storytelling, not about reprimanding, not about judging, but responsive storytelling. Let me know if you'd like to receive that bit of writing. I'd be happy to send it to you. But it helped me with today because there's 3 or 4 stories that came. The first one started with my time in Korea in the early 1980s when I went around and observed on the ways to all the monasteries and all the back roads in the litter of the wayside. Beautiful flowers blooming called cosmos. And they were in different shades of pink and mauve and some white. And I loved the dark mauve ones. And they were going to seed because it was late in the fall for part of the pilgrimage. And so I began to collect the seeds. And I had quite a pouch of them when I finally returned here to the temple. And I planted them in the front yard. And they're very prolific, so they began to bloom all over the front yard. And it was interesting to see, mainly the purple, the mauve ones came up, and there were a few white. And gradually, the whole yard, there was a time when I let the yard grow up, it grew up in a lot of cosmos. And then those cosmos got to the backyard and growing up all over the backyard. They seem to be able to grow up even between cracks in the sidewalks and in the most rocky of places. And I noticed that one had grown up in front of the shop door. Some of you may know it's a quite big, heavy door. And it was growing just a little bit, and the door would bypass it because the door was up enough. But then as it grew bigger, the door would brush it and it would bow down. And then when the door came back, it would come up again. And it would be up and down all the time. And my first thought was to weed it out. I mean, there's a place that, a flower should not be growing because it will be always hit by the door. But then I decided that that was pretty something, that it was hit by the door and it always came back up again. So I left it and it grew taller and stronger and began to bloom. And when Sunam was here for a visit once, he noticed it and he said to me, "Why don't you pull up that weed that is growing in front, that flower that was growing in front of the shop door?" And I said, "Because it's so tenacious and spunky. It reminds me of us, that we're all very tenacious and spunky." So when I walked out today, I remembered that story. I wanted to send out the reminder to you about that, and also to remind myself about that. Because I've been feeling a little, I don't like to admit it actually, but a little crabby lately, a little discontent, and sort of irritated. Even as I sit here today, I don't think that I'm physically unwell. I always have a frog in my throat in the morning. But kind of I'm maybe a little emotionally or spiritually out of balance, I'm not sure. So I feel this grumpiness. And yesterday at lunch, sitting with the dear residents, at the end of our meal time together, we'd had a little discussion. I said to them, to a couple of them, "Bullies, you're bullies." And there was kind of some laughing at it, but it was a kind of nervous laughing. And I immediately regretted saying that, because these are much loved bullies that I was talking to, if they are even bullies at all. So I began to think about the situation for the rest of the day and even this morning, and decided that I must apologize for my kind of meanness. and for my irritation. And I had been thinking about it a lot and going through a process, and it felt like apologizing at this point. And so it was interesting to do that because they said, it's always good to be specific. And I said, it just came. And then one of them said, well, usually that's pretty honest. I thought about that. And speaking of bullying, I thought of another story. When I was in Korea, we used to go from temple to temple and really visit the temples thoroughly, looking at art collections and art and stupas and Buddhas and all kinds of murals on the walls. And once we were inside Tongdosa, I think it was, it's a Buddha Jewel monastery, and there was a lot of art. It had kind of like a little art gallery, and there was art for sale. And I was picking up some of this art and looking at it, and Sunam came over to me and he said, "You are not handling this art properly, and you should be doing this and that." And all along, he was always telling me things that I was not doing correctly. So I got to feel like I was a bull in a china shop. And so at night, I began to write in my journal little lists of things to try to be not so much of a bull in a china shop. I was in a new culture for me, and I had a shaven head, and I had all my gray robes on, so it looked like I knew what I was doing. But it was not so, and I really groped around. And so with lists and gradually asking Sunam, please let us know, what behavior and how we should act. We've never really learned some of these things. And so he would do that. So it got better. It got better. And I was thinking in the same way, we are all kind of bulls in a china shop with this pandemic that is going on. And we're having to live our lives in a much different way, in a different culture than we're used to. And it's sometimes really quite wonderful. And I thought to myself, well, I think I'm doing pretty well. And then all of a sudden I become grumpy and irritated and start talking about bullies. Maybe you've had some of these same experiences. So I began to investigate the paramitas. If you remember, in the last few weeks, first, after a couple of talks, when I talked once about the Prajna dragon boat, that we're all in the same boat and each of us is doing our part to get across to the other shore. And the dragon boat has a big dragon at the head at the front and big dragon tail at the back. And one of our members made a beautiful picture of it. So we're all in the same boat. And I talked about that, our essential Buddha nature, how this is a koan, a wadu. This is something that we don't know about, and by various practices, we gradually learn about. And so then after generosity, I talked about the precepts not to harm. And now this week, what has come to me is the practice of patience. Patience with myself, with others, and with the way things are, the great impermanence, that we do get sick, that we do die, that we do not have control. So how to be with the process of patience. And I have been using this process myself after being so grumpy last night to see what it's all about. And I like to share a little, some notes that I have made called Patience Process with Heavy Emotions and Triggering Situations. So we have to understand when we begin our spiritual practice, and please excuse me for keep going all over the place. I had an appointment with Dr. Lou by FaceTime the other day. He had me stick out my tongue and show him my eyes and my hands and ask me questions. And he said, we're all right. What we're trying to do, all of us, is keep our immune systems up. And then he told me a whole list of things like drinking water and exercise and the way we eat, and that we had to have spiritual wellness. So this part about the process of patience is part of our spiritual wellness. And all the things that you're doing in your life, a little meditation, a little prostration, a little spiritual study, some chanting, keeping of the precepts, all of these things are about your spiritual wellness, which is a very important part of the whole formula. So let me talk about the patience and get back to it. First of all, when we're developing patience within ourselves, it's really a process. I don't think that there's a static form of patience. And it's an approach to understanding ourselves and situations in order to harmonize with them and to be able to hang out with these situations. So there are a few steps, which is our steps toward the long run. Take time, stop and take time to understand really what's going on here. Think about it, write about it, talk about it. It all helps that way. The second is, in the moment of the thing, whether it's some kind of irritation, frustration, anxiety, in the moment of that thing, notice exactly what happens, especially the sensations in your body. So understanding, oh, this is how this comes about. This is what it looks like in my body. And the third is to just say that, this is irritation. This is what it feels like. And any time between these, it's good to take a slow, deep breath. And then, after the moment has passed, review and try to understand deeply. And then we go, as we would with our lives as bodhisattvas, to practice the bodhisattva precept. I vow to practice love and friendship, not to harbor ill will, but to be forgiving to myself and to others, to apologize to myself and others. This is all in the keeping of this precept, to practice love, friendship, and not to harbor ill will. So it comes out in a little nutshell, just this: breath and body, speaker, hearer, unpleasant emotion, earth, sky, bird song, existence, non-existence, appreciation, sorrow, gratitude, impermanence. What a mix all the time. moment after moment. And so we learn mindfulness. This is a practice of quite subtle observation, spaciously being with what happens, without judging or fixing, simply noticing and embracing. This mindfulness is counterintuitive because often we want to do something stronger, really beat ourselves up or change or this. But mindfulness, just being gently aware of this, just being gently aware of just this, without doing anything, can make a difference. Of course, it's always combined with our good intentions to keep the precepts, to be disciplined, to be present each moment. It involves also a sense of, I think, spaciousness. Remember, I shared with you the idea of the thing being a hand right in your face. And this process is about just taking it back. It's still there, but we see that there's much more spaciousness that we can also pay attention to, which gives us perspective and also allows imagination to come in the solution and resolution of the situation, where ultimately we learn to harmonize rather than to be estranged. Okay, so far so good. Let's see. So this patience can be in regard to many things. Many years ago, one of our Dharma worker students came regularly on the weekend to practice and to work at the temple. It's a beautiful program we have, like being a monk on the weekend. Of course, it can be done by coming to live full-time too. And so I would meet with him and show him the work that needs to be done. And he would work away. It was usually outside. And at this particular time, I called him nearby and I said, let me show you something. So we walked to the outside of the fence that we used to have. And there was a little vine, which I showed to him. And I said, I received this vine from one of our members. She had the vine growing up on her garage roof with beautiful white flowers. We've transplanted a seedling or a root from this vine, and it's just not doing well. So I said to him, would you please talk to that plant and see what it needs? And he looked at me, what? Talk to plants? And I smiled. I said, well, try it out. See. So he said, okay. I don't think he had been talking to plants very much. I do it all the time, but I haven't my whole life that much. Anyway, I said, let me know. So about an hour later, I don't know what he'd been doing all that time, he came to me and I said, well, I think I've got it. You mean you talked to the plant? He said, yep. Okay, so what is it? And he said, well, the plant says that it needs some support, that it can't climb up because it doesn't have enough support. And it needs water regularly, he said. And I said, that's it? He said, yeah. So I said, will you do it? And he said, yeah. And so he went, and in a while he built this kind of trellis. It was a beautiful kind of funky trellis. And he went over and put the trellis up against the fence and entwined the plant through some of the gaps in the trellis and began to water. And he began to, go and look at the plant to see how it was doing and water it every time he came. And it was wonderful to see that it grew up and made a beautiful big vine and flowers near the end of the summer on the fence. In fact, somehow vines like that began growing all over the yard. And whenever he comes to the temple, he remembers that, and he also wants to go and see how that vine is that he talked to when it was just about dead. Yeah, and we always smile about it because he thought it was ridiculous to talk to a plant. So I tell you, this is kind of the final story right now, as we are all in lockdown and still till May 15th here in Michigan, and who knows, maybe longer. So that you can really use the patience process when you need to. Maybe talk to plants when you need to. That you come to use some imagination in your life on how to solve the things that come up, and maybe, like me, gets you a little irritated, gets you big angry, gets you worried, create anxiety, and that with that process, with some regular practice and routines, and with a little imagination, you can come to a sense of equanimity, beautiful composure, with a little bit of fun. This is a wonderful book. I'm always recommending wonderful books. It's called The Coyote's Guide. And our Dharma student from California, Tanha, Tom Vaca, recommended. Actually, I think he sent it to me. And it's a beautiful book of things to do outside, sitting outside, finding your sit spot, doing all kinds of imaginative things, not just for children, but for adults as well. And it has this little thing at the beginning that introduces it. Yeah, we call this book The Coyote's Guide, because it entices each of us off our beaten path to experiment with creative approaches, to do something different from what's generally being tried. Coyote guides us to be willing to have a true sense of play and abandon, knowing that this new uncharted way will truly be the only way out. This new uncharted way will be the only way out. That's what was referred to in Wendell Berry's poem last week. And this is our process to get through this don't know, to find the new way on the other side that will benefit really not only ourselves, but all beings. It's the great Bodhisattva vow. I would like now to end with the Dharma Guardian prayer because I find it very inspiring. When I'm feeling a little down at the mouth, as I seem to be the last couple of days, it's one that helps me. And it's good to go in front of your altar and I'm not sure if you can find it, so we can send it to you. Please request and we will send it to you. It's to go in front of your altar, to light candles, to bring a little offering like some flowers or even some leaves from the garden, a little food from the kitchen. Put your Buddha's birthday lantern on your altar. And in our case, we have a simple kind of coffee cake this morning, very simple, and we have put that. It's wonderful to appreciate simple things. Then kneel down and bringing your hands palm to palm in Hapchang of sincere heart. Read aloud until you've memorized Dharma Guardian Prayer. So repeat after me, please. I salute and pay homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
I salute and pay homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas
in the 10 directions and 3 worlds.
In the 10 directions and 3 worlds.
With my true and sincere heart.
With my true and sincere heart.
I aspire to follow in the footsteps.
I aspire to follow in the footsteps
of their wisdom, compassion, and enlightenment for all.
Of their wisdom, compassion, and enlightenment for all.
May I remain firm in my resolve.
May I remain firm in my resolve.
For the way of the Bodhisattva.
For the way of the Bodhisattva.
And rejoice in humility and gratitude.
And rejoice in humility and gratitude.
For the realization that I'm endowed with Buddhahood.
For the realization that I'm endowed with Buddhahood.
I beseech my teachers to admonish me with guidance.
I beseech my teachers to admonish me with guidance.
When I go astray.
When I go astray.
And to never forsake me.
And to never forsake me.
I pray that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas protect me.
I pray that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas protect me.
When I slip in my devotion to peace and love.
When I slip in my devotion to peace and love.
And encourage me when I lack courage and vital spirit.
And encourage me when I lack courage and vital spirit.
Allow me Dharma power and wisdom I.
Allow me Dharma power and wisdom I.
For the alleviation of suffering and emancipation.
For the alleviation of suffering and emancipation.
Of the afflicted and conflicted.
Of the afflicted and conflicted.
Let peace and justice prevail.
Let peace and justice prevail.
Over hatred and violence.
Over hatred and violence.
Let it be a mountain.
Let it be a mountain.
Be a mountain.
Be a mountain.
Let it be a river.
Let it be a river.
Be a river.
Be a river.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Namo Maha Prajna Paramita.
Namo Maha Prajna Paramita.
Making bow. Now, just before we go to Ma'um's announcements, I wish to just show you a few things that I have around me in preparation for Buddha's birthday. So in the midst of all of this, we can look forward to a lovely birthday celebration next week. And in the special ceremony, find a bowl not sure if you can see this bowl. Yes, you can. On the altar and put your Buddha. It might not be the baby Buddha like this, but maybe you've been able to find one in that bowl. And then prepare a pot of tea and leave the pot there until we come to the place in the service when we bathe the baby Buddha. And then we pour the tea into this bowl, or the bowl you would pour it in, and then you would use a ladle. And this ladle we've had really a long time. I'd say we've had it 25 years. I think the original ribbons and buttons are on it when my daughter Gomani's about 9 years old, and she and Wansho, one of our longtime members, made this because we didn't have a ladle like they had in Korea to do the bathing. So you can find some kind of ladle that you have and decorate it so that when you're bathing the Buddha and pouring the tea on, you have all the equipment. Yeah. I like to, I don't know if you're watching this morning, Madonna, but Madonna, when we didn't have enough baby Buddhas over here, very kindly found this Buddha, the baby Buddha image, and sent it to us. The one on our altar here, I think what you can just see, is a traditional one from the Korean temples. So a long time ago, An Su and Susan from Grand Rapids, when they didn't live in Grand Rapids, used to come for Buddha's birthday and the rest of the special days in the year. They would celebrate in their homes and they would make up how they would do it with the kids. So this is our opportunity to see how you could do this Buddha's birthday celebration yourself. I invite you to be imaginative and just use the simple things you have so that it will be just kind of touching that you're able to put this together with what you already have and some imagination. So now here's Ma'um. She's going to give some of the more important details, other important details.
So good morning, everyone. We invite you all to be part of our wonderful Buddha's birthday celebration next weekend. And it begins on Saturday evening with the Burning Karma Cabaret, live performances by members of our Chicago and Toronto temples, and the Ann Arbor Temple, and also Paramita. Oh, actually, Paramita will be part of the, Paramita will be part of the cabaret. And Sandang, our very favorite storyteller. So this event will be live streamed from Chicago. We will send a link to you that you can click on and then view the entire event. And it will be saved so you can also view it later. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Chicago time. On Sunday at 10 a.m., please join us here for our special bathing of the baby Buddha ceremony hosted by Venerable Haji Sunim. And the weekend then concludes, also during the day, before the lantern ceremony, we will have available to you a playlist of videos for our families to view at any time they wish so that they can have their own Buddha's birthday celebration. As a part of getting ready for that, if you receive our e-bulletin, you would have seen instructions for making dedications to hang on trees. Instead of lantern dedications, we're doing tree dedications this year. And we also appreciate your sending us pictures of your altar, pictures of your lanterns, pictures of your dedications, so that we can put them together in a collage, which will be part of this playlist that is available to you. When you click on the playlist, you'll see a Buddhist birthday parade. You will see Sangdong telling stories. You will see Susan from Grand Rapids offering a children's service. So I hope that you all tune in for that. The evening then concludes at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, with a lantern lighting ceremony, again hosted by our Chicago temple. So links to all these events will be in our e-bulletin and also posted on Facebook. So the Facebook, again, the Facebook address, very easy to find, facebook.com/Zen Buddhist Temple. Hopefully you have all visited this by now. That's Buddha's birthday. Events happening today, right now, at 11:30. A virtual tea time hosted by Tongsan and Kusa. You can find the link to that on our Facebook. At 12 noon, Refuge Dharma will have a virtual meeting, and also the practice period. I think those are the events for today. We want to thank all of you, and we're so grateful for the continued donations that we are receiving in this time of stress. And we also offer you our hearts. Give us a call. If there's anything you need, we will do our best to try to help you out. So grateful to have you with us this morning. Deep bows to all of you.
Whatever merit we have earned from our participation in this service, we offer for the relief of suffering and peace and happiness of all beings, especially to those in the Sangha who have been ill, who have had surgery, who have had loved ones die. All of these people, and to all of our members and friends who are on the front lines doing work on our behalf, dangerous work. We're very grateful for all these, and we offer any merit we have earned through our practice today for their well-being and safety. Mahaprajna Paramita, Mahaprajna Paramita. Okay. Not yet, because I want to see this thing.
Yeah, for sure. But we still ended.
Okay.
Then